Gary, we're going to shift to job revisions. You have the exact number, but it's a big one, over 800,000. We've obviously talked ad nauseum about government reporting numbers, as well as a weak private economy. Thing number two, Gary, DKI warned about job revisions. They are huge.
Yeah, this is enormous. So, one thing that's been a constant theme here on the five things is we've talked a lot about the unreliability of the employment data. And I use the word data very loosely. The pattern we've seen, and by the way, intern Andrew Brown has done a great job putting together charts on this. We've put charts on this before. But the thing that we've tracked is typically in a given month, every month, these employment numbers are reported, and the numbers are usually fantastic. And they're used by people in Washington, people in the White House, in the administration to talk about how amazing the economy is. Oh my God, we have a fantastic economy. Look at all these new jobs. And it grabs headlines. But then what we find is a month later, there's a revision. And that first revision, the employment numbers are almost always revised down. And a month after that, we get a second revision. And that second revision, guess what? They're almost always revised down. And it's gotten to the point where the revisions are so consistent in one direction, always down, and so large that the employment data is no longer useful. And that's why, I mean, I told you that's why we've stopped reporting on it. That's why we've stopped covering it. People act like there's data, there's something to interpret, but the numbers are just nonsense and they're made up and they're going to be revised by so much. It's all ridiculous. So we got a report last week. This was expected. A lot of credit to Michael Shedlock, Mish, economist on the DKI Board of Advisors. He nailed this revision. But for the 12 months ending March of 2024, the employment numbers were revised down by 818,000 jobs, almost a million jobs. That is enormous. It wiped out somewhere in the neighborhood of, I think, like a third of all the job additions over the prior year, and basically blew apart all of the job announcement beats over expectations. So, as an example, if people were expecting an increase of 200,000 jobs and we got 250,000 jobs, people said, "Oh my God, this is amazing. Look, what a great economy you have." And the White House would be crowing and Congress would be saying, "Look, we have this terrific economy. Everything's in great shape." And, we beat expectations by 50,000 jobs. And the next month we beat expectations by 25,000 jobs, and on and on. If you add up all of the beats that they had, they were all wiped out and more by a huge margin. Revising these employment numbers down by 818,000 jobs means that for that entire year, every time they told you we added more jobs than people were expecting, that wasn't true. They added fewer jobs than what people were expecting.
Gary, one of the things I found interesting amidst the obviously mess that is the 818,000 jobs that were revised down, we saw government jobs were actually revised up the other way. What do we make of that?
Yeah, this is one of my great frustrations. We've talked a lot about a bifurcated economy where we just have massive amounts of government spending and stimulus that makes the aggregate numbers look good. And we've talked a lot about how the average American is not doing well. People's earnings have not kept up with inflation. So many people are struggling to pay their car bills, their credit card bills, the food bills. Everything has just gotten really expensive. We talk about food a lot, but when people have difficulty paying for it, that's scary. That's not a sign that we're in a great place. I saw something earlier today, something like 11% of all credit card bills are more than 90 days past due. I mean, these are just enormous numbers. And so, when we talk about this bifurcated economy, one of the things that we talk about a lot is the difference between what the average American is experiencing, which is not great, and what the government is experiencing, which is just massive amounts of spending. And so, that 818,000 jobs, those all came out of the private sector. And that's the sector of the economy where people produce things, where they produce value. It turns out they had to adjust government jobs up, that there were more people in government jobs than they'd even counted before. That's where all of the growth has been. And the thing that should scare people is government jobs are not productive. The government doesn't produce things. They take from people who produce and they redistribute that. Now, if you're watching this and you want to make the argument, yeah, but that's really a good thing. All right, fine. Go ahead, put that in the comments. You're entitled to your point of view on policy, but but that doesn't change the fact that it is taking from productive people and redistributing it. So if you think that's a good thing, that's fine. You can think that. But what we're seeing is just an increasing shift in value and economic power and economic spending from the productive sector of the economy to the unproductive sector of the economy. And we just saw that in spades in these employment numbers.
Great insight there, Gary. And as always, we'll keep eyes on any of these reports and be calling them out with skepticism that I think we've hit like 100%. I feel our
Yeah.
rate on knowing that they're going to revise down it seems just to be a certain thing. I wish I could bet on it.
Yeah, it's amazing, Rob. There are times that people criticize me for being, pessimistic or critical. I'm like, but if I'm right, then I'm realistic. Right? If
Right.
I keep saying things are bad, and then the data comes out good, then I was too pessimistic and wrong. But if we're saying, look, this is a problem, and then the data supports that, I'm not too pessimistic. We were correct. And in
Yeah.
this case, we
Realist.
have been.
Realist.